The noted attorney, founder of Tyner Law Firm, Mitch Tyner, is in the house. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Paul. Great to see you.
Good to see you, and thank you for coming in.
My pleasure.
I'm gonna put my ADD to work this morning and bounce off around on this first segment before we get to crypto. I want you to hear something because it infuriates me and it saddens me in a multitude of ways. You can comment on this or not. This is, it's a group called, is it a website, blog or something, The Nation? Ely Mistel, M-Y-S-T-A-L. He's been a regular on MSNBC. And he once again attacked the Republican Georgia Senate candidate, a guy that we know as Herschel Walker. When he was on MSNBC, this is an African-American guy. It was called A Cross Connection with Tiffany Cross, and that was on Saturday. And she began by questioning a poll that claimed that Walker is only a few percentage points behind the Democrat and the current Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock, a far, far left person, in the upcoming race with 8% of the voters still undecided. And here is what he said on Saturday.
It's going to be a close election in Georgia because Walker has the backing of the Republicans. Now you ask, why are Republicans backing this man who's so clearly unintelligent, who so clearly doesn't have independent thoughts? But that's actually the reason. Walker's going to do what he's told. And that's what Republicans like. That's what Republicans want from their Negroes, to do what they're told. And Walker presents exactly as a person who lacks independent thoughts, lacks an independent agenda, lacks an independent ability to grasp policies, and he's just going to go in there and vote like Mitch McConnell tells him to vote. And remember, this has worked for the GOP in the South already. Tommy Tuberville, who right now is probably the dumbest person in the United States Senate, right? All he does is do what Mitch McConnell tells him to do.
My goodness.
Your response to that.
Well, come on, let's have some substance here. All he's doing is insulting anyone that is a Republican, and then he even brings in the skin color. My goodness, I don't know what he thinks he's going to achieve with that. But I mean, Herschel Walker has been a conservative for years, and great guy, and I think we're going to win that race.
To me, no other force in political universe has been as strong as, I call them the Democrat mafia. It's in blacks through the independent political freedom that the Democrat Party has stopped them. In other words, they've kept a large majority of the blacks on social platform from, they generate hate, less hope, more shaming, less encouragement, and they've been doing this. And when one of them steps out, here's what you see from the leaders and the spokespeople from the Democrat Party. Blacks in America are unique in the struggle for political freedom when you think about it. I mean, no other group has came to a change and chattel.
And I think that the Democrats are getting somewhat anxious about the fact that the blacks within the party have been voting the same way for a long time, and some are beginning to peel off because they realize that doing the same thing over and over again is just not advancing their cause. And so when they see people that are out there making a living and getting ahead, and they're doing it in a conservative way instead of like your last artist was singing, this progress stuff that the Democrats are spouting just isn't working.
Well, it isn't really the irony of this. This is exactly what the Democrat Party has done.
It's going to be a close election in Georgia because Walker has the backing of the Republicans. Now you ask, why are Republicans backing this man who's so clearly unintelligent, who so clearly doesn't have independent thoughts? But that's actually the reason. Walker's going to do what he's told. And that's what Republicans like. That's what Republicans want from their Negroes.
That is, if he was saying it about me as an American, Italian American, I would bombard the guy. I mean, I would. But to me, the most dangerous freedom that a black person could do would be exercise today their personal freedom or their political freedom. Because, man, they are targeted. Look at the Supreme Court Justice Thomas and everybody else. You step out and say, look, my forefathers, many of them died for this. And one of the things they died was no more poll taxes, no more constraints on my voting rights. And then the party itself does this.
Yeah.
It's an irony that I don't think many people in the African-American community grasp.
Well, Paul, I think that's a great example. Clarence Thomas, the minute he steps out of the progressive liberal side, they begin to attack him. And certainly he did that on abortion here recently, and he's come under a tremendous amount of attack from the left because of it.
The world of crypto, and I want to get into this too, and I want to go back to politics after this when we just dance back and forth, but I don't know if you've heard this, and this is a cut that I've had in for a while here, and it was taken from the UK, and I want your thoughts on this.
G7 is launching a set of public policy principles for retail central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. Central bank digital currencies could be a digital version of money, a bit like a digital banknote that could be used alongside...
Right, so that's the guy who runs our economy in the UK, and here is the article. Bank of England tells ministers to intervene on digital currency programming. I'll just read the quote. Digital cash could be programmed to ensure it is only spent on essentials or goods which an employer or government deems to be sensible. I'm going to take it one step further for you. They bring in digital banking, central banking digital currencies. You've got a scenario now that you're checking in and out everywhere you go using vouchers that are programmed, and you can only spend where you're told you can spend them. There's another word for that. That's called the Chinese social credit system. That's what it's called. What they are telling us, and when I say they, who's they? People in power. That's the head of our economy. You bring in that digital currency and you've got this total control. And if I'm speaking to you the way I'm speaking now, and my employer or government, you heard that in the quote direct, deems me as saying or doing something inappropriate, suddenly I can't actually pay to come here and speak to you anymore. My digital currency won't even pay for the ticket because it will be known that I'm coming to speak to you.
Do you think people understand what is going on in this country and other countries?
So this is a very frightening position that they've taken there at the G7. The UK said that they wanted to be the hub of cryptocurrency. Mm-hmm. I'm fine with that, but the reality is having a hub of cryptocurrency goes against the entire idea of cryptocurrency. It's like when you went from a mainframe to personal computers. Cryptocurrency is supported by millions of computers around the world, and so it's not something to be contained in a hub. Now, going a step further, this is one of the beautiful things about cryptocurrency. It can be utilized for a lot of different things. The technology is. It's not that difficult to understand. It is simply transactions that are layered upon each other and become, so far, no way to undo a transaction. It's extraordinarily secure. And so that transaction doesn't have to be just currency. That transaction could be handling land records. That transaction could be doing voting records, anything like that.
I want to continue on that one. We got a quick break. I guess the question is it engineeringly possible? Can they do that if they wanted to?
Yes.
And they can do it. I mean, it is possible for them to do that.
And let's talk about that. Yeah, our own government may try to do that.
It's a little bit scary,
It
and
is.
God knows that if liberals hear it here and they like it, it usually winds up, first of all, in Washington, D.C., and then spreads across the country. That is scary. Mitch Tyner coming up a little bit later on. Why is it necessary, and I don't understand this, for Nancy Pelosi to go to Taiwan and China is threatening? Is that worth World War III? Glenn Antizo, Associate Professor, Mississippi College, coming up at 8:05. Back with more next. Live from the Trustmark Studios, it is The Gallo Show, and again, they are member FDIC. Mitch Tyner continues with us. Mitch, continue on what you were saying as far as how serious this is, and can they do this if they wanted to?
Yes. The thing that automatically gives cash, currency, value is the only way that you can pay your taxes is U.S. dollars. If the United States government decided that they wanted to have a dollar cryptocurrency, and they decided that the only way you could pay your taxes is through that dollar cryptocurrency, then they could institute that very easily. The frightening part is, and this is something that has kind of evolved since I've been involved, the reason cryptocurrency took off was the anonymity of transactions. Mm-hmm. What people didn't realize, even though it was anonymous, because there's not a name necessarily tied to that currency, the transactions are transparent. You can see every transaction that takes place. You can see where it is generated, where the cryptocurrency is generated, and you can see where it moves to. And all you have to do is unveil what that wallet number, who is attached to that wallet number. And so it certainly is trackable. So if our government decided they wanted to go to a cryptocurrency, and they decided that you could only have 1 6-pack of beer a month, then they could limit that using cryptocurrency. Yeah. And I'll give you a great example, really. You could compare it to an EBT card, food stamps. Now the recipients of food stamps, they receive a credit card, and that credit card can only be used to buy certain items. Now, what we know occurred is that that EBT card is valuable, and they normally many people find ways around it. They'll go and get some cash for some of the credits on the card, and then they can turn around and buy what they want to with it.
Yeah, but that's a very good analogy. Very good analogy.
Yeah. So it's something I don't want to see happen because I don't like giving that much control to our federal government. They've already got too much control.
So going back to or being on the gold standard would have no effect on that one way or the other, or is that's
no? I don't think so. Currently, cryptocurrency has value, which is intriguing. It's the only time that I'm aware of that a currency achieved value without a government saying you have to pay your taxes with it.
Yeah. But how do you get there? Do you get there by saying that the existing cryptocurrency offerings are now the government's, or would the government put their own out and say this is the only standard now?
They could do either one, but most likely they would put their own coin, their own currency out.
So what happens to the investments on the other ones?
They would still be there. The intrinsic value of those would not be decreased by doing it. It's just another way to present the U.S. dollar.
Yeah, but because of the propensity for this to get out of hand and start doing exactly what you don't want to do it, they have got to nudge you that way.
They do. And the other problem is currently all the cryptocurrencies have their own intrinsic value for different reasons. They can be used in different ways. The U.S. government, if they put out their own cryptocurrency, most likely they would tie it to the value of the dollar, and so it most likely would not float like the other.
So you have some stability, and that's one of the things to go with. Plus the fact they could mandate it if you're on Snap or something like that.
That's right, they can mandate it. So and I do want to point out one other thing. If folks are out there playing with cryptocurrencies, because there's been a lot of money made in cryptocurrencies. Keep in mind that there's a new currency created every day. I'm sure there's over 1,000 different currencies now. Keep in mind that just because it's 1/10 of a penny today doesn't mean it's going to reach $20,000 like Bitcoin did. Bitcoin's value is increased because there's a limited number of Bitcoins to ever come into existence. That is not true with most of the other cryptocurrencies. So just keep that in mind if you're playing around with cryptos.
Let me ask you this, as in your former position with the Trump administration and an advocacy for the Small Business Administration. What's your take? First of all, let me play this one. I don't think I hit this one before. This is on the recession. And it's the president.
We're here. We'll hear directly about the outlook for their businesses and the economy from their perspective, and how we transition from a historic economic recovery to a stable, steady growth and lower inflation, without letting go of all the historic gains we made.
So, how in the world can you say that? First of all the historic gains that we have made.
It's unbelievable. I mean, of course, he's a politician. He's going to have to spin it in the best light that he can. But you can't spin the price of hamburger meat going up by 25%. And you can't spend fuel costs doubling over the last 2 years. You just can't spin it. We all feel that personally. And so no matter what you're saying from that microphone, and I think he's losing credibility by not admitting how strong inflation is. We're comparing this to now an all-time high inflation rate going back to the early 80s, the Jimmy Carter administration. Mm-hmm. What people are forgetting is that we have changed how we calculate the inflation rate since that time. And so we're not taking into account fuel costs and other costs that are extraordinarily high. And so if you take that into account, we're way above where we were in the early 80s in the Carter administration.
Over the weekend on a news, one of the news programs mentioned that exactly and said if you put that calculation into today, those numbers are almost double.
Wow.
From what they were.
So that's
almost
16% inflation?
Yeah, 16 or 17%.
I mean, and the way that they got control of it, I believe, and you may remember it better than me because I was still in college or just out of college, but they kept raising the interest rate.
God,
and the interest rate had to get to the rate of inflation. And so a new home, the interest rate was 19%.
It was a learning experience. Well, and we bought a business back then, and that's how stupid we were. So, but
if things are going so great, though, then why is it the White House officials are trying to redefine recession?
No, we're not redefining recession.
If we all understand a recession to be 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth in a row, and then you have White House officials come up here to say, no, that's not what a recession is. It's something else. How is that not redefining recession?
Because that's not the definition.
She and I feel for her sometimes because she's trying to handle absolutely positively impossible questions. Mm-hmm. They cannot be answered with any cognitive thought process at all, and she rambles through them, but in many parts you got to feel for her because
Again, that's the spin zone for sure. My goodness gracious.
The problem that a lot of people are having is this goes on, and you don't see any turnaround because, as I mentioned on Friday, you're dealing with 2 more years of Democrats in the White House, one way or the other, regardless of who's there.
We are.
And their policies are not going to change that much.
And November's coming. Oh, hang on. November's coming.
Yeah. The least you can do is block.
Right.
You can't build on it.
Thank goodness we can block, though, after November. That's going to be extraordinary for us, and I'm just holding my breath that they don't spend another $1 trillion or $2 trillion in between now and November.
Well, as someone who deals with the economy a lot, should you be worried about that, or should you say, thank goodness for this marquee bill because it's going to lower inflation dramatically? That was a set-up question.
If we print some more money, that's going to lower inflation.
Yeah.
It's a crying shame. I can't remember the exact percentages, but the public is probably not aware, but we do not exist off of our taxpayer dollars. I think we spend probably 50% or maybe twice as much through the federal government than what is collected in taxes. Mm-hmm. And the only way to come up with those extra dollars is to print them. And no wonder we have inflation.
The Democrat marquee bill that I just mentioned to reduce inflation would likely have zero impact on inflation. This is according to the study by the influential Penn-Wharton budget model. And Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Joe Manchin, unfortunately, unveiled the Inflation Reduction Act last week when they claimed this would combat climate change, extend enhanced Obamacare subsidies, reduce the budget deficit by $300 billion.
Wow.
Unbelievable. And the Penn-Wharton budget model has poured cold water on the alleged disinflationary effects of the Democrats' reconciliation bill. It found the impact on inflation is statistically indistinguishable from zero. Your final thoughts when we come back from Mitch Tyner. Final second opening bumper here from Tyler Tisdale, Hattiesburg guy, singing She Is the One. Final thoughts from Mitch Tyner. By the way, Mitch, let's give Joe Biden some credit on records, because he did set a new record again. He is now the worst president in American history. Over the weekend, I think they gave him this award in the second year. So he beats even Jimmy Carter.
Wow.
So the worst president in his second year of service in the history of this country.
So it's interesting. I wonder if he's really going to run again. I mean, I know he's got to say yes until that decision is made, but I think there were some incredible polls of Democrats that were not in favor of him running again.
It's by a large majority, and 90. Of course, he said the other day in a soundbite we played that if I run again, I've seen the polls, 92% of the people would vote on me. But he's living in a different world out there, and I'm going to be honest with you. I do not think he's going to make it till the end of the year. And if so, maybe the spring, but he's nowhere near to where he needs to ramp up for the next election.
No,
ain't gonna happen.
It's amazing that he was elected out of the basement. He did not campaign last time around, and I think that it was more of an anti-Trump vote than it was in favor of Joe Biden vote. So.
The character assessment. In speaking of Guinness Book of World Records, whether you like the guy or not, and he's easy not to like because of his personality, and I understand that, but the Guinness Book of World Records has got to have the number. Nobody ever in our lifetime or beyond, I think, will catch him. The number one guy who's had more character assassination bombs after him has got to be Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And it continues.
Yeah.
They are scared as hell.
Yeah, they are. And they're going to keep attacking him. That's why he's still relevant, because they're scared, like you said, that he's going to run. So,
who do you think, and this is going to happen, who do you think Kamala Harris will choose as vice president?
I wouldn't be surprised if she went back to California and picked up Gavin Newsom as a VP.
Well, wait a minute. Where's she from originally?
She was from California. She was the attorney general out there.
Well, you can't have a vice president from the same state, can you?
I did not know that was a rule.
I thought I've always heard that.
I mean, it usually does not make sense because you're looking to pick up another region.
Well, I understand it in the political game, but I have always heard that. Somebody on C-Spire, let me know.
How interesting. I did not know that.
That you could not have a vice president and president. I'm not sure if that was a party deal or if that's a constitutional deal.
Very interesting.
But who do you think, if it is in California, and I'm wrong on this, who are you talking about?
Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, well,
he is rumored to have visited the Washington while Biden was out of the country, and so there's some attention that he's garnering there. I'm not sure if Kamala Harris will be in the next race either. Her numbers are not good either. So.
No, I don't. I agree with you, and then she may not be. But that said, though, if he leaves, she'll have to appoint one.
Oh, that's right. She sure will. And
that's what I was talking about. Not so much running again.
And so she would probably want to pick up someone in the Midwest. Politically, that would be astute, I think, since she's from California.
Well, one thing you're not going to get, you're not going to get a Joe Manchin or anybody who's got any moderation at all. Party will just not allow that.
Well, I mean that would make more sense than anything is to pick Joe Manchin. He's well liked. He's a fairly conservative guy, and so that's really not a bad pick right there.
No, it'd be a good pick, but they just will not allow the radical part of the. I can't see them even having. If they thought for any reason he might be president, as that conservative or moderate of a Democrat, they would go on a tissy fit that you've never seen before.
Well, you're right. The Bernie Sanders AOC wing of the party would just be raising Cain about it, and would actually, I guess, that could jeopardize the cohesiveness of the party if they got somebody like Joe Manchin.
Final second here, but there was so much more I wanted to cover with you. We invite you to come on back a little bit later on. Love to have you.
Thank you, Paul.
Good stuff, man. Appreciate you coming in.
Great to see you.
Mitch Tyner.